Have so many addendums to add.
I saw that. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a busy meeting tonight.
Very first one.
Okay. Oh, wow. I'm waiting to see if it's Andrew. You're kidding.
Becky Rowdy.
Yeah. it is. Oh, wait, sure. Just need that. Ready?
All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight is May 13th, 2026. Welcome you to the West Haven City Planning Commission meeting. The time is 6:01 p.m. Excuse me, I'm calling the meeting to order. Item number 2 on our agenda is opening ceremonies. We'll have a pledge of allegiance from Commission Member Strecker and a prayer moment of silence from Commission Member Jensen.
You can please stand, join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious God, we give thanks for the opportunity to gather today and for the responsibility entrusted to this committee. We ask for wisdom, clarity, and discernment as we consider decisions that will shape our city and impact the lives of those who live, work, and visit here. Grant us humility as we listen, patience as we deliberate, and courage to seek what is just, sustainable, and beneficial for the common good. Help us to balance growth and stewardship, progress, and respect for community and vision with practical care. May our decisions be guided by mutual respect, thoughtful collaboration, and a shared commitment to the well-being of present and future generations. Bless our efforts so that our work today contributes to a city that is safe, vibrant, and welcoming to all. We are grateful for the diverse perspectives at this table and ask that you bless us. Amen.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Next item number 3, action on minutes. Does anybody have anything on A, the meeting held from April 22nd, 26? Okay. Anybody have anything on B, the special planning commission minutes held on April 28th?
I did not.
I do. On item number 3 for the public hearing in the gray boxes, it says down at the bottom, recused for Commission Member Stimson, and also in the second box down there. Both say recused, and in my time on the commission, I haven't seen anybody recuse themselves. Maybe we could just change that whole box to excused. Yeah, 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 that exactly. Anyway, that's the only change I have. Is if anybody has anything else or doesn't have anything else, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes from April, April 22nd and the special meeting on April 28th.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item number 4, reports, actions taken by city council and other items. Stephen.
Okay, I just have a couple items to report today. So the first item is the last week, the city council heard the rezone application that was located on Hinckley. That was rezoned from M1 light industrial to R3 for multifamily. The planning commission gave a positive recommendation on that, but the council, they tabled the item seeking or advising the applicant to provide some additional information about their access onto Hinckley. And so the applicant is currently working on that. The next item I have is our general plan. We are well underway, as many of you know. About a month ago, just over a month ago, we did a joint meeting with the city council where we talked about several items from that, several items from the public survey and some of the advice from the advisory committee, and also just some general recommendations for how the plan could go. In that meeting, we talked quite a bit about housing, but we never approached some other topics regarding like centers and how we wanted to develop housing around some of these commercial corridors and where our multifamily already exists. And there's a few other questions. Those are kind of the big ones that were left remaining. So what we'd like to do after some discussion with with our consultant and with the city manager, we felt like our best option would be to do an additional workshop with the planning commission, specifically gauged at those questions, to get your feedback, and then take that feedback to the council for them to give some advice on where they wanted the plan to go. And then that would give, we feel like doing that, we'd have enough information to be able to actually produce the plan and map that we could then present for final approval. And so what we'd like to do that at the next planning commission meeting on the 27th. I talked to Jeff a little bit about this just to see his role as chair. But we would likely plan that at 5 o'clock or 5:15. The one item that we'd anticipate that it might take longer than an hour. That'd be the only downside, is that we'd probably push into our normal meeting. But I feel like this is important enough that I'd want to make sure that we could really allocate all the time that we need to make sure that to get it fully discussed. Are there any questions or any concerns about holding it at our next meeting?
Nope, not for me.
Okay.
What time?
Likely, probably
5:15.
5 or 5:15.
Okay.
Just put 5.
Yeah. Okay. And then my last item is, if you've been through some of our parks and trails, you've probably seen this sign come up. I put a flyer in front of each of you. We're underways with our trails master plan. Our parks, trails, and open space master plan and survey is now out and available. I'll send you the physical link to like a link that you can click on tomorrow, or you're welcome to scan the QR code and do it with your phone. But so we have the surveys out right now. And as we said, we've posted about 14 signs throughout the city, mostly in parks and trail spaces. So I believe that is everything I have.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Item number 5, presentation on public hearing for an amendment to the zoning map from mixed use to C2 at 1670 West 21st Street, parcel number 150690066. The applicant is Craig Odekirk or Odekirk? Odekirk, thank you. Odekirk, okay, thanks. Stephen.
Yeah, I can give a little background on this before we do the public hearing. So the applicant, as stated on the agenda, is seeking to rezone the parcel from mixed use to C2 at the stated location. The main reason, the petition, and the petition is to be able to open up a tavern or bar as listed in our code. There in our concept plan, you see that they've called it a cider shop, but that would fall under the tavern bar use, which is a conditional use within the C2 zone. It's also important to note that this use would also be allowed under our mixed use zone, which is their current zoning, also as a C2, or also as a mixed use, or excuse me, as a conditional use. Our mixed use zone standards apply. This essentially what our mixed use zone requires, that when you develop commercial, that they have to meet a C2 standard. And so the commercial use and standards would be very similar across the zones. The big difference is within the mixed use zone, an applicant is required to provide that 20% of the property would be for a different use. That could be for residential, open space, recreational, institutional type uses. Because of the relative small size of the property, which is about a half acre, it presents some challenges with accommodating a mixture of uses for their envisioned use. And so the applicant has requested a rezone to C2 in order to proceed with their application. So if you look at the surrounding area, most of the surrounding area is mixed use. So if you look at north east and west, we have a mixed use with a mixture of different type of uses, everything from a few single-family homes to some commercial uses and also some townhome developments, while across the street to the south is a C2 use with mostly commercial uses with some residential uses in that area. An important note and something that if they proceed with this application, either under a C2 or mixed use zone, there is some spacing requirements for any type when they do a bar under the Department of Alcohol Beverage Services. They're required to provide certain spacing between community locations. Typically, it's about 300 feet, depending on the use. There is a church school across the street, and there is an old church building down the street that I don't believe is currently used as a church. After my initial assessment, it didn't appear that anything was within that the separation was appropriate. However, that is something that we would require as part of a site plan when they come in, because some of that is measured from their property line to the entrance of the facility. And so, depending where that entrance is can play a part. And it also depends a little bit on the use or the type of alcohol that is, or the type of alcohol establishment that is being provided or being proposed. So under some other considerations, one of the items is we typically will look at our general plan map. And as you look at the general plan map, you can see the parcel is currently split with the frontage along Wilson, as listed in our general plan map, Wilson Lane or 2100 South is C2, with the back piece of property is C3, which is the primary reason why they're requesting the C2 because that would be compliant with the general plan map. As the development is one of the other considerations that is of note is we did require a site plan or concept plan as part of this rezone. Anytime you do a rezone to a commercial, multifamily, institutional, or industrial use, they have to provide a concept plan. You might have seen on that concept plan that they don't have any access. They're not proposing access through their own property. The building is located up front in the middle of their property, and there's no driveway or access. The reason for that is 2100 South is a UDOT roadway, and they control the access. And for most new commercial developments, they require that they have a joint access with a neighbor. And where this property used to have a single family home on it that has since been abandoned, there's an old driveway, and UDOT has informed them that it is very likely that they will not be able to utilize the existing access point and would require any redevelopment of this property would likely require a cross-access agreement with their neighbor. And so that's why they don't have an access point shown on their concept plan. And I do also want to note that that is something that we would require if approved, or if they try to go down the mixed use route, then we would require that they secure that access as part of the site plan approval process, which that's already established within our code. And that's part of the reason why that's not listed as a recommended condition, because our code covers that already. So that would be something that they would have to do in order to move forward with the application if the rezone is granted, or if they choose to do a mixed use project on the site. A couple other considerations that are important. Sorry, as I'm scrolling through my report. One of the items that is recommended the Council and Planning Commission look at is whether the application would provide a service or convenience to the surrounding area as part of the rezone. And as we looked at that, part of that can provide service and convenience is that it would be a commercial use that is generally appropriate and compatible with the surrounding land uses. And the finding is based on the proposed general land use and concept without regards to technical aspect, most of which we haven't, because the concept plan is a concept, we haven't done a full technical review. So that is an item though for consideration, whether or not the rezone would help provide a service or convenience as part of the application. This is a legislative decision, so the planning commission has some wide discretion in your recommendation. And there is some alternate zoning options as listed within the code that may be considered. But the planning commission, the options that are before you is a recommendation of approval, a recommendation with any type of conditions that you would like to, a recommendation of approval with any type of conditions. You could recommend a denial, or you can also have the option to table the application for further consideration if you feel like there's items that you'd like to see before you'd make that recommendation. Yeah, that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Anybody have any questions? Any questions for the applicant?
I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Okay. Do we have a representative for Mr. O.D. Kirk?
Yeah, this is my son Scott.
Yeah, just tell us your name and your address, please.
Hello, my name is Scott Odekirk. My address is 2782 West, 1900 North in Plain City. And I'd like to expand on the bar tavern. This would actually be more of a winery. According to the state of Utah, it'd be a cider house and a restaurant, which the restaurant would arguably be 60 to 70% of the business. So I just wanted to add that in there as well.
Okay.
But that's what we would like to do, is to be able to join the West Haven community. My dad is Colonel Craig, retired United States Army Reserve, and we want to be able to service the veterans and to be able to provide service for the community. And so we'd like to be able to do that.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any
I
questions?
just had a question about the future access point,
Yeah.
the access to the, I'm new to this, so I'm trying to figure out, do you guys already have somebody in mind? You're gonna joint venture on the access to the property? What are you guys thinking there?
So we're still trying to figure out what's required. We were told that the driveway that comes with the property is not usable, but there's that other access road, which we were told UDOT would allow us to use. I'm not sure what rules are. And I mean, ultimately, we want to follow the rules. We want to make this as amicable as possible. We don't want to step on anyone's toes.
Sure.
So
So is that other road right now a private road or we don't know?
I understand it is.
Yeah, the other roadway is owned by, it's K-Bell Plumbing that's behind it. It's, the ownership is under a different name, but they're the ones who own and maintain that roadway.
Okay, so it's
And when we get into the public hearing, you'll see that one of the representatives sent in a comment on that.
right, okay.
So what happens if since it's K-Bell Plumbing's road, what happens if they don't allow them to use it?
That's partly, that's a really good question. The city won't approve a site plan unless they have access off a roadway. It's a UDOT roadway, and so they'll have to meet UDOT standards for that access. And generally speaking, UDOT tries to facilitate conversations between property owners to provide those type of access points. But at this point, where they don't have a full site plan or application in, UDOT has just provided them some general feedback on what is allowed and what's not allowed.
So we're still really just looking at zoning and that's all right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you're saying that it's the 21st is the UDOT roadway, right? Wilson
Correct.
Lane, but that private road, they need to work something out for access through that private road
Yep.
with the owner.
Mm-hmm.
Or would UDOT eventually grant you maybe access to the old road? Or the-
It is potentially they might allow it, but like I said, as of right now, they've indicated that they will likely not allow for that the access that was the historic access will likely not be allowed to be used.
If UDOT allowed this access point for them, how much of this drawing or this concept plan would be changed? Because
It would,
they'd have to be wide enough for
yeah, it'd be
vehicles.
pretty significant. I would bet they would probably they'd have to move the structure back to the rear part of the property in order to just because of space. But essentially, if UDOT said, if you can't get access off this private roadway, we'll have to do this one on this more or you will have to allow you to use this one, then they'll likely have to make some changes to the site, would be my guess.
Okay. You look like you have something to say.
Sorry, this
You
is a
gotta come up-
family venture, so this.
You gotta come up here, so.
'Cause I've been working with UDOT on this very issue for the past. month or so.
I need your name and address, please.
I am Jason of the family Odikirk. I domicile at 3267 Monroe Boulevard near Ogden in Utah State. So I've been in informal conversations with UDOT on this very issue, that one. As far as the site plan goes, if they were to grant us access to the existing driveway, there would actually be very negligible change necessary. Because the way the building is facing, one of the things that we wanted to do is to respect our neighbor, especially that house. So we made sure that, the building is not going to be butted up next to his property, his or her property. And that's the side where the existing driveway is. And that's going to be the main thoroughfare for the autos to come in and out in front of the building, honoring the setback that's required and things of that nature. So it really would not impact too much from what you see on the papers that's provided on that one, if we're allowed to do that one. The informal conversations so far are stating that UDOT is not enthusiastically wanting to allow additional commercial access to the property in that particular area. So we most likely will have to work an arrangement to use the driveway. If not, UDOT will step in on that one. I mean, we don't want to do that. We want to be equitable and cooperative with our neighbors and things of that nature. But that's kind of how we're proceeding, is with what information we've gleaned from UDOT at this point in time. So, but we would love it if we could maintain our own driveway.
Sure.
And if we can, like I said, the impact of that plan you see is actually very negligible and minor. So. if there's any-
So based on the site plan, I guess I'm just looking at like the parcel on Weber County and then the site plan. Does your property line go to where that access road is now, or is there a sliver next to the access road that belongs to
The property line
person
butts up
behind you?
really close to that access road.
Okay.
There's just a very little bit of space between the road and ours that they haven't paved, but it goes right up to that access road.
So are you intending to kind of expand on that access road based on this plan that I see here, or
I don't think they need to expand the road for the general traffic.
to
on that
widen
one.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah, I'm just
necessary.
trying to understand the concept and what is proposed here, because
Yeah, they haul big trucks in and out of that all the time, so, we're not gonna be hauling big trucks out of the space, all the time.
When
For,
you say, I'm sorry, Dan.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
Yeah,
That
for-
was rude.
for loading and loading, anything big, UDOT is fine with having semis pull up, unload, load, and take off, so we're good for that, so.
Okay. Sorry. Now my question.
Go for it.
When you say a little bit of space between your property and that, what is a little bit of space?
So our line, and I don't know the exact dimension, but they don't have the entire road paved up to the line. I think there's just, and again, I don't know how much space there really is. I have to get into it, but there's just a teeny bit of space that they just don't have paved on that one, so. That's,
Sometimes a little space is kind of
Yeah.
like a fish.
yeah, yeah, I don't have the exact dimension of that, what they've paved and what they haven't paved on that one. We'd have to, get into detail, but for the most part, that driveway is very close to the property line, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we go to public hearing? Okay, you can go ahead and sit down, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, to enter
Public hearing?
public hearing, I guess, yeah.
Oh, just making sure.
I could read the whole thing if you want. Here we
No, I'll
go.
make a motion
All right.
already. I'll make a motion to enter public hearing to solicit public input on amendment of the zoning map for mixed use to C2, 1670 West to 21st Street parcel, 1506900066, applicant Craig Odikirk.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Before we go into public hearing, I'll read the rules to everybody because it looks like we got some people that may want to talk. Each speaker will be limited to a single opportunity to speak and shall direct comments only to the commission. Such opportunity may not exceed 3 minutes as has been determined by the chair as outlined in Resolution 28-2021. In accordance with Resolution 2821, the chair may refuse to recognize or may exclude from the public hearing anyone who is abusive or disruptive, takes part in or encourages audience demonstrations such as applause, cheering, display of signs, or other conduct disruptive to the hearing. Comments without first receiving recognition from the chair and stating his or her full name and residence, or presents irrelevant, immaterial, or repetitious evidence. Comments and questions raised by speakers will not be addressed or answered by staff or commissioners during the hearing, but will be addressed upon conclusion of the upon the conclusion and closure of the hearing. All right. With that, is there anybody that wants to speak to this? Hi.
David Smith, 1656 West, 2100 South, West Haven. My property is located directly east of the proposed development, and would like to point out my reasons and concerns why this project should not be approved. First, Utah's proximity laws regulate how close alcohol-serving businesses, including taverns and bars, can be located in certain community facilities like churches and schools. Now, what this means as far as a community location, churches, public or private schools, and the distant requirements for taverns or bars and other alcohol retail outlets, the license generally cannot be issued if the business is located within 600 feet by ordinary pedestrian travel. So if you were to take a look at the proposed site and go south, it is less than 600 feet to the school's property line. Also, I would like to point out the fact that on both the east and west side of the proposed business, you have 2 residential homes. And also point out that the access road that they're referring to is actually a private road used by K-Bell Plumbing. And I'm sure that he will bring up his specific concerns about the proposal. I also would like to point out the concern with traffic. Right now on our street, there is a traffic issue. And may I point out the fact that the city, when they approved a development of high density behind us several years ago, there was supposed to be 2 ingress and egress. To this date, there is still only 1 ingress and egress to over 18 apartment buildings with 24 units and over 315 to 350 townhomes that come out on 1 lane. Now, and pointing that out, we've seen on average about 1 accident a month, people trying to get in and out. There is times that I can't even get into my own driveway because people are flying down the median to try to get in to turn into that development. Also, some other items to consider when reviewing the proposal. 1, because I did not see it on the concept plan, how would the business be managing their sanitation and waste containment? 2, it was not listed what the days and hours of operation would be. 3, whether they would be providing privacy fencing along the property line between the proposed development and the residential homes located on either side. 4th item I'd like to point out, the fact that we are in a declared state of drought and the amount of water proposed for this use was told on average between 1,000 and 1,500 gallons per day. I mean, we're as citizens told to cut back, and yet that would be allowing for quite a bit of water to be used. Now, what wasn't, it was briefly mentioned that this was going to be open as a tavern or bar. And need to find out as far as, looking under state statute 32B-11-03, the specific authority and operational requirements for winery manufacturing license. And then it goes down into the next section, the 32B-11-210, the requirements as far as having a taste, where they were talking about having a tasting of their product. And I don't want to go into all the specifics, but it talks about how they can allow for a bona fide sample, but it may not exceed a collective of more than 16 ounces as far as cider is concerned. And they have to have a distinct area for the consumption of such tests, and also be providing substantial food to offset according to state law. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention that I am not in favor of the proposed development. The fact that it will adversely impact our street that's already heavily hit with traffic. And now on both sides, you add this, you've got a lot of pedestrian traffic that goes up and down our street, because we see them as they go down to 7-Eleven or down to Flying J. So that's what I wanted to share. And again, I invite the commission to vote no on this proposal.
Very much. Anybody else? Yes. I just state your name and I should the microphone.
My name is Mickey Elmer. I live at 1740 West, 2100 South, in the old church on Wilson Lane. I would just like to also give my concerns about what is trying to be presented to you and be approved today. The information that Mr. Smith gave you about the traffic has to be a major concern. Even though I live quite a ways down the road and Painter Lane is right there, being able to merge onto 21st is a nightmare because people are using the center lane as a roadway. And so what you do is you merge onto that road and then you run into the people trying to merge into the apartments. That is a real total and complete chaotic mess. I don't know how we got past having two entrances into that high density apartment buildings, but you have one where everybody comes in and everybody goes out, and you have over 350 buildings or units, which is how many vehicles and how many people living in that back area. So as a resident coming in and out, trying to get off there, I cannot imagine adding more problems to the traffic with people who might possibly have been drinking, or even an additional 30 more cars going up and down that road or trying to get back on the freeway, back on 21st Street. It's a nightmare. I'd invite any of you to come down and take a look at that, especially in the afternoons and the evenings. It's not very fun. We love 21st Street. We lived there for a long time. And even though it was mentioned that there are businesses there, there's quite a few of us who have made that our home. And so as we're driving down here today, you know, I'm looking around and going, these are commercial buildings, these are commercial spaces. They don't have the residential, and they don't have any bars, and they don't have any taverns right there in the middle of their residential area. I always believed that when I bought my property back in 1992, that there would be a time that I believed that West Haven would actually look at that street and say, this is the gateway to West Haven. If you look at other communities and you go off their entrances and their exits, they have a development where they have really, really nice family things that are a benefit to everybody within the community. Our road has not had anything done. Private businesses, nothing else, no development whatsoever. And so there always is a hope that we would look at it and people would realize, yeah, this is a great opportunity, but right now there's people still living there. As residents, our property is zoned commercial. We didn't have any choice in that, it just happened. There's nothing we can do about it. But we still live there. And we still want to be able to guarantee that if we walk down the street, we don't have to worry about more cars coming in and out of a business. We want to be able to guarantee that we're safe. And we would like to offer a challenge to the city to see if they can figure out a way to get another road over there by the apartments so that the traffic is controlled a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, come on up. State your name and address, please.
Eric Child, 2377 South, 2200 West, West Haven. I am one of the owners of K-Bell, that owns that private road. We don't actually oppose the zoning change, but we will not, based on our access, won't be able to grant any kind of agreement to use our private lane. Mostly because the access is tight now. When we have trucks coming in and out, like today when I left, I had 2 trucks. I had to back up, let that truck come in. So they're not sticking out on 21st Street. It's a busy road. So we have big box trucks, 25 to 30 trucks. We receive deliveries daily, all day long from supply houses and things. So, from our standpoint, and I think there was a letter or an email sent, with our concerns. And that's really states what we're at. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we did receive your email, and since you mentioned it, I think we'll just skip the reading of it and go ahead, just attach it. Okay, great. It's pretty lengthy. It's well written, so thank you. Anything from the commission or anybody else? All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion unless anybody wants to discuss it. Well, no, we do discussion afterwards, sorry. I'll take a motion.
To close them.
Yes, to close the public.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Anybody have anything about this?
So right now, we're only discussing rezoning. That's it. Nothing else. Just rezoning.
Correct.
Yeah, so by code, they're required to provide a concept plan. And are generally supposed to stick close. I mean, it's a concept plan, so there will be changes. But typically, one of the reasons we didn't recommend any like conditions on that concept plan is we felt as staff that our development standards are adequate to address the concerns about access. And it's a conditional use permit, which means we can require fencing and other buffering between them and neighbors. So there are a few things that we can do during the administrative phase of it. So generally, yes, we are reviewing zoning. You should consider the concept plan, but that's been the proposed use. But yes, it is a zoning question that's in front of the commission today.
I'm just a little curious if we want to even go down this road, if it sounds like there will be no access given from the private road.
That is a really good question. And I guess and the applicant will probably be able to speak to this. A rezone would allow the applicant, I generally greenlight the applicant to explore it more. Where under the current zoning, they could actually come in and propose a mixed use development. They could propose a tavern or like apartments on top or something like that if they wanted to. But the rezone, generally speaking, a lot of applicants won't sink money into a project until they know they have the zoning that would be more desirable for their project.
Just a thought, whether or not they can get access or not, that's their issue. You need to decide whether or not it's matching up with, the general plan map, the rezone. All of these other things, whether or not it's the use is too close or there's privacy fencing or whether or not there's access, that's really all very much in the site plan. But that's their issues for you really need to focus on the rezone. And does it meet the general plan and the goals of the general plan map?
For those in the audience, that's our city attorney. So she's giving us legal advice.
Sorry, I should have said something, Jeff. I apologize.
Thought it was Melinda. I'm like,
I thought it was more than
Yeah.
that first.
I would
did
say
too,
I would
so-
agree with Amy's synopsis.
yeah. So they meet all the requirements for that.
Is it too close that we had a gentleman talk about being too close to a school? Is that correct to Utah law?
So under Utah law, I'm not an expert, and which is why I mentioned in there that it would have to get approval from, is it DOPS? I think is how you pronounce it. I think it's like a 300-foot line as a crow flies, if I remember right, for this use, but then a 600-foot for how a pedestrian would access it. And so the use is within 600 feet, but it's on the other side of a state highway. And so my general understanding in a lot of these circumstances is they would consider the most likely path a pedestrian would take, which wouldn't consider crossing the middle of the highway and would have to go down to the light and over. But in the end, that's up to the Department of Alcohol and Beverage Services to make that determination. But when I've been in other cities, when that's been the case, there was a school across the street that was only, the property lines were only like 100 feet away, but they were able to get an alcohol license because they put their door on the back side of of the building. And so they could get the door 300 feet away from the property line. And then the 600 feet was considered because there was a highway in between, and the pedestrian had to walk down to the corner and cross the street and back. So in my experience, that's how they've typically calculated it. But in the end, it's up to the state to make that determination.
And you feel it meets the general plan?
Yeah, the general plan calls for this property to be either C2 or C3. And C2 is the less intensive of those possible zoning.
Okay.
In all honesty, I don't think you're going to be able to do what you want to do. I don't think you're going to get any access to the property. I seriously doubt that UDOT is going to give you access, and I'm like 100% sure your neighbors to the west are not going to give you any access.
I've been paying taxes for 5 or 6 years. Is there any way to get a refund?
Anyway, that's just.
My conversations informal.
Jeff, can you please have them come to the
Come up
microphone?
with Mike, please.
Sorry, my apologies. My discussions have been informal with UDOT. And based upon the conversations, if we need to make this formal, UDOT is willing to step in. We want to try to avoid this. I believe there is a path forward that we can work with KBEL to properly expand and make a proper use of the driveway on that one. But we don't want to go down that route. We would like to, as men and women work towards an equitable solution. But UDOT is prepared because they are very. They've heard the issues about traffic, and this is one of the reasons why they are restricting, new commercial entrances and exits on the road on that one. They've been putting the effort and emphasis on what's already there and, making that available because, to deny us reasonable access to our land will be an issue on that one. So, and that is a phrase that UDOT has said. So, we'll say, well, we'll work what we can, and then, if we need to, we'll engage UDOT more to be the referee and final resolve of the issue. So, but we want to stay honorable, equitable. We want to work with our neighbors.
Sure.
So, and then it includes privacy fence if necessary, the concept plan. We want to make sure that we are not, going to be the burden. We want to make sure that we're part of the community to serve the community at its best and its interest on that one. So.
So I have
Go ahead.
a couple more questions. So this is a little premature, but just to get an idea, are you guys running this on your own? Do you have an operator that will come in and
This is going to be family.
run the establishment?
Yeah, this is going to be family. This is a family owned and run business on that one. From development to the product, to the layout, to design, to who's actually going to be in there. And we'll hire people to help us with it, but it's going to be a family-owned operation from the beginning on that one. So,
Yeah. And just to kind of lay out where I am with this, I'm not inherently opposed to the rezone. If you want to rezone to C2 that falls within a general plan, that's what that area is going to look like. I think it's hard sometimes to see those two things separately. And I think it's hard for sometimes in the public perception to understand that those are two separate things. You come in for a rezone for your land,
Yeah, and
you're required to provide a concept.
yeah, that's the only thing that we're here today is just the reason.
But then you have to come back in for the development, the site plan approval, everything. I mean, I don't know if you've worked with DABs. I've tried to work with DABs on a few things just in my profession for certain things, and they are a pain to get through, and they are strict, and they
That's why I
check
had him do
every
that.
single thing. So as far as from the public's perception, they will make sure that they're in compliance with every law that's out there regarding the Department of Alcoholic Beverages. But I mean, I just to be aware for you guys, like I have no problem with the rezone. I might recommend trying to resolve some of the other things with your neighbors or with anything else first. It's almost a little so that way if it's not going to work and you don't see a path forward, you can come back and maybe request a different zone change or hold off changing the zone until you figure out what to do at that point. But you know, just I don't know if you've already looked into these things or had conversations with neighbors or anything like that, but part of me is, you know, if you'd like us to table it, we can table it and then revisit the rezone again at a different point, or we can move forward and then just you can work through all those hurdles at a certain point. So
I'll let right if he wants to table the motion on that one. Like I said, our only focus for today is just the rezone on
Yeah.
that one.
Absolutely. And that's all we're here to approve is the rezone. We're
Yeah,
not
that's it.
approving just because we approve the rezone to C2 for everybody out there doesn't mean that we are approving this tavern or this development or this site
Yeah,
plan going.
and that's fully understood, 100%.
It'll be a whole new process for them to come through. They have to abide by all of the other zoning codes to develop that piece of land.
Yeah, well, you know, we want to stay within all the policies, you know, by DABs and all that good fun stuff. Like I said, our only focus here today is just the rezone. We're not looking for building permits or anything of that nature. We wanted to take, you know, one step at a time. You know, here's point A, then we'll address point B. We feel it is in our interest to have that rezone in case there are other things that we need to do on that one.
Yeah.
And then based upon the plan that we've had discussions on, it sounds like this whole area is going to be commercial eventually. So we felt that, you know, our request was in line with what the current plan is, you know, whether that plan is fruition this year, 10 years or whatever. We felt that our plan is in line with what is being put forward by the city at this time. So.
Yeah. And again, the only reason I'd recommend tabling is if you wanted to jump over some of those, you know, communications hurdles with people before you get the rezone and then start spending money and then run into those hurdles, and then spend more money. And then, you know, just if it's tabled, then you don't actually have the change. And then you can go back to the drawing board, request a different zoning or whatever it is. Right. So that's the only reason I'd recommend tabling. But again, it's up to you, like, I guess we'll decide on that. But if at your request, we can table it and.
Yeah, I'll let the owner, because that'll be his decision in the end, because it's his fee that he's paid on that one there, so.
Yeah.
I'll let him make the decision on that one, so.
Okay. Hi, sir.
Hey, Cody Kirk. I live at 4620 South, 1075 East in Ogden, just a little bit west of Weber State University. There's a lot of history going on here. And in order to tell you everything, it would exceed my 3 minutes. So I will probably write you a letter or send you an extensive email to cover all of the things. There's some issues with K-Bell. There's issues with the neighbors, all kinds of things going on. But I bought this land a long time ago, and it originally was a residential piece of property. The person who owned it originally tore the house down because he was going to build a facility to refurbish and sell Corvettes. That was his plan. But his wife said, I have a job over in Singapore and have a choice. You can go with me or stay here and have your Corvettes. So he sold the property to me. And we looked at a lot of different opportunities for businesses. We looked at daycare. We looked at martial arts. We looked at all kinds of things, and they were all difficult businesses. I think the only one that made any sense was just to put a big fence around it and then have outdoor storage for RVs. Maybe I could do that still. But if you have a commercial property and you can't access it and you can't use it, there's something wrong with the process. So I'm willing to table it, and I'll send you a letter and you can share it with the other members of the council.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, to let you guys know, we're a recommendation. The city council's the one that makes the final choice on whether or not the rezone is done. So our job is to have the public hearings and then to make the recommendation of whether or not we think they should go forward with this or leave it as mixed use. So anybody have any other comments?
What did he do?
I-
Do you want to table it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just have a question for Stephen. Do you know if they, if it gets tabled, they don't have to reapply, correct? That just means we're pushing it off for a different
That is
meeting.
correct. If it's
Okay.
tabled, we don't have to, we don't have to renotice. We don't have to hold another public hearing. The public hearing that we held was adequate, so.
Okay. So if you get it tabled, this is just kind of pushing it down the road a little bit, and you'll come back to another meeting where the decision or the recommendation will be officially recorded to the city council.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion.
So did he table it?
Did you, was that the recommendation or
Like
the
it
request
tabled?
to table it?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table item number, where are we at, 7?
Yeah.
Item number 7 on the agenda, the discussion and action for the amendment to the zoning map for mixed use C2 for 1670 West 21st Street, parcel number 150690066 for the applicant Craig Odekirk.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. It's up to you. All right, item number 8, presentation on change to Title 15 land use, home occupation, including 157.880 through 157.883. I sure do know how to clear a place out. don't I? Stephen, or no?
That'll be me.
Just talk about home occupation and patio homes and you'll get everyone gone, right?
Yeah, that's the way to get everybody out of here.
So before I begin, I did print off copies that I forgot to distribute. Does anybody want a printed copy?
No.
Okay,
Save my battery.
I just killed a small tree for nothing.
All
I'm kidding.
Like, you want us to make you feel better? We can pass them out there.
Anybody want one?
Well,
I just pass them down.
Pass them all down.
All right.
We'll take them. I guess they're here.
Yep.
All right. Keep one.
They'll get used
Pass 'em
before
down.
they go to my recycling box.
it was just a small one, not a large tree.
Small
Yeah.
tree, huh?
So this is a proposal to amend the home occupation code, and it is staff initiated. So city staff drafted. And a little bit of background behind this proposal. So in recent times, staff has received multiple applications that we did not feel was consistent with the purpose and intent of the home occupation code. And some of the uses that we've been requested to issue a business license for, we felt were just inherently not compatible with the residential neighborhoods that would host them. So that being said, staff has proposed several changes to the home occupation code to better balance individual property owners' rights with their neighbors' property owners' rights, as well as community health, safety, and welfare. And recently, staff has been working closely with the Planning Commission to further refine this proposal. We've conducted multiple work sessions on this one. And staff feels that the product that we now have is, it best benefits the city, and we think that it is ready for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation on, an official recommendation on. So a summary of the amendments is provided in the staff report. I won't go over all of those verbatim, but there is one change that the Planning Commission hasn't seen, and that is in section 157.881. And staff does now mention garage sales and yard sales as not being considered a home occupation. And the reason for that is because there was mention made previously of garage sales, group garage sales specifically in the home occupation code that we've taken out. And some members of staff did not like us taking that out. And they want to see some restrictions on garage sales in there. However, planning staff doesn't feel it appropriate for this code, considering it's not a home occupation, so it would be misplaced if we incorporate it into this chapter or this subchapter. So that being said, we do make mention of it, that it is not a home occupation, and you can probably see another staff-initiated proposal in the future where we do incorporate it in the zoning code and we do define it. So with that most recent update, staff recommends that the Planning Commission does recommend the approval of the proposal as proposed to the City Council. And that concludes my presentation.
All right. Thank you, Damian.
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions?
There's a separate, do we have a separate ordinance that governs garage sales?
No, it's not.
I
It's
couldn't
not in
remember.
the-
I know
like
that,
the
that when
business
we
licensing
initially,
section.
when we initially went through it, we put in some stuff about garage sales. I don't remember what it was, but,
Mhm.
and this is like 5 years ago, but,
Right now, the current home occupation just governs like group garage sales.
okay.
What we'd like to do is we did a little research, and then other communities, a lot of times what they do is garage sales are normally just a permitted use within residential zones, but normally there's some sort of limitation on number of days and frequency throughout the
Yeah.
year. So you can do 2 or 3 garage sales a year that can't last more than like 2 days. That's a very common metric. We didn't, as we were discussing this as staff, I didn't want to govern it with home occupation because I don't want somebody to have to come and get a home occupation to do a garage sale.
Yeah.
And so,
Stop doing that.
yeah, nobody would.
Yeah.
And so what we'd like to do is just probably just go throughout our residential zones and just add that as a permitted use with some certain stipulations on it.
Yeah, because I can't remember if I don't know if it got taken out this iteration or in previous iterations, but there was some language in there about you can only have it X amount of times per year, X amount of days, etc.
That was in the initial draft that we took that out, and I favored just disallowing retail altogether,
Yeah.
except where it's otherwise permitted.
I'm not opposed to this change here at all. I was just trying to refresh my memory, but I do think it would be beneficial to have some regulations about yard sales in our code somewhere. So,
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to put garage sales again.
Question on something I've recently seen pop up around me is they have dumpsters to rent and they're sitting on their property with the signs. Is that a home occupation business or what the heck is that?
So right now, if they were to apply for a home occupation, and we do have a current application that hasn't moved forward, staff gave them some corrections and they haven't provided a resubmittal, but it is for dumpsters. It's probably not the property you're thinking of. I think I know the property you're thinking of, and we don't have an application for that yet, not an official one. Code enforcement is currently investigating that, what's going on there, but so that is covered in the update. Although we can't deny it outright, if they were to apply right now, we would have to approve them if they can meet all of our current standards. And I think a use like that, with some conditions, could meet our current standards.
Technically, right now, we could deny them based on the updated code. Once the code is in motion, typically, by state law, once a body's reviewing a code seriously, you can deny applications for use. We haven't done that in the past very often. I've talked to Amy and the city manager about this. This was mostly in reference to the patio home zone, and both of them kind of advised to wait till the public hearing was advertised, and we had gotten to that point if we wanted to do that route. So I would say if we did get an application in today that we knew was going to be a violation of our updated ordinance, that's something that we would
Possibly deny.
yeah, we could possibly deny. Obviously, I'd seek counsel before we did that, but
I'm just
sorry.
shocked with those.
No, thanks for
It's evolving.
the information. I would also add that in 157.883A, that's our list of business types that cannot be allowed as a home occupation. We have specifically vehicle, trailer, RV, or equipment rentals cannot be permitted as a home occupation, and that's what that business would fall under. I didn't number these pages, I'm sorry, but it's like third from the last page.
So I think everybody knows I'm vehemently opposed to automobile repair in a residential zone.
And
I don't understand how pet boarding and kennels would be more bothersome than an automobile repair. I really don't. For me, the city's gonna be
The odors?
changing. Huh?
Because of the odors and the barking.
Well, barking or working on cars, take your choice. Yeah, the city's going to be changing over the years, upcoming years. I try to look forward, even though I may not be alive for it. I see us becoming more residential, more people moving in, more commercial. As we saw in the economic development handout. I can't vote for that part of it, vote yes for that part of it at any rate, so.
For which part? You're saying
The automobile repair, the same page that he's talking about on lots greater than 1 acre, any business which involves repair, service, all that stuff about auto repairs. I just can't see that in a residential zone as part of this.
That's 883 subsection B.
Yeah,
I would say that we are, I believe we're still on item number 9, though, or number 8, presentation on public hearing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're kind of just leading into it.
Okay.
I didn't skip it. We're not voting yet. I'm just trying to state my case.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
At any rate, if there is no more discussion right now, we can move to public hearing for a title change to Title 15 Land Use Home Occupation, including 157.880 through 157.883.
I'll motion to open public hearing, based on, do I need to reread it since you just? did
No,
it?
you don't need to read it. I'll second that.
Okay.
So. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi. Any opposed?
Angels.
All right. We are in public hearing. Is there anybody online? Okay. Do you care? Okay. I
He
didn't think
cares.
so, but.
I'm sure he cares, but not about that.
All right. Well, if there's nobody that wants to talk about it, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
I'll motion to close public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Discussion and action.
What a beautiful document. Well done.
A lot of work.
It is. I mean, he's killed himself over
Yeah.
this thing and we've been beating him up how many times now?
I know. It's
I like that it's a lot.
You
more
made more
consistent.
changes than
Yeah.
most people change diapers, so.
wow.
I think we're still on one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do, yeah. You know, it's still on one hand,
Yeah.
that's good, so. Anyway, I stated my case on that particular section of it and,
So are you basically saying, Jeff, that you would like to
I've,
change it?
yeah, I'm still in favor of,
Well, we voted, like, didn't we?
Yeah, we
before?
all voted for it.
And.
no, we all
No,
didn't.
y'all did, but some did.
We all did not recommend that.
I
But
love
it
just
did
my
move
favorite.
forward.
It moved to where we are right
Right
now,
now.
so I'm just trying to explain that I just see a future where there's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot more residential, and the ones that are here are grandfathered
Grandfathered
in.
in.
Yeah,
I think having it in a closed shop on 1 acres and above, I think you should be fine.
on 1 acre and above,
Yeah.
not in a residential.
In residential, yeah.
Like A1, A1,
Go on.
A1 should be okay.
There's always just the poor actors that ruin it for everyone else,
Yes.
but I
Lots of
like to
rules.
think there's the good ones that you don't want to.
I think this is definitely a lot tighter than it was before too,
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah,
of
it's just too bad we can't pull
rules.
back those ones that somehow got through.
So we'll learn. Maybe next iteration we'll be like, hey, somebody will hurt us real bad, and we'll just be like, hey, you
Gonna
can't
close it all out.
Well, I keep
Yeah.
keeping the one that bugs me that maybe they'll miss their day to renew their license by 1 day and it'd be like.
Usually they run their course and like my friend that has one, he's too old now to do it, so he's just stopping, so. And it's been good. It's been a good thing for him to make money when he's retired and had no pension or nothing, so.
Is he an A1 or A2?
Residential.
Residential.
Yeah. See, that's the problem I'm having with this is it says may be allowed in residential or agricultural zones. I don't have a problem with the agricultural zones. My hangup is this residential
residential.
zone. And, yeah.
That's
Like I
fair.
said,
Actor, then we have the other guy that's got
Yeah,
a million cars all over his, it's,
I think we've got enough checks and balances in place, and
yeah.
I respect your decision, Jeff. This one, I'm like, I just want to believe in humanity one more time.
only one vote.
All right.
Have we talked this thing to death yet?
We make a motion?
Yep.
We make a
Yes.
motion?
You may make a motion.
All right. I'll make a motion. Do I have to read that? Okay. If I read that. Making a motion to recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the home occupation code, finding that the proposal is consistent with the vision and goals of the general plan and is in keeping with the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents. Do I need to do the modifications?
I don't. think we have
No.
that.
I don't have time.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes.
And just for we can, if the council ask, is there a reason for the dissent?
A reason for the dissent?
What he was talking
Yeah.
about the.
I'm just curious. I think the council occasionally asks us why a couple commissioners.
Yeah.
Well, I can't speak for Melinda, but I think I just did mine.
I'm on Jeff's bandwagon. I agree with him and his feelings on that subject. He's made it pretty clear, and I feel like it's been pretty clear from the community also, so that's fine.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If it's okay with you guys, can we skip to or move number 14 up so that this gentleman in the audience
Wanted to see
doesn't
that.
have to wait for us to go into another public hearing?
So, gentlemen here, this is.
Yes,
Rick
I know
Stamp.
that.
That's our economic advisor.
Oh, you're not here? Oh, you're
Except
not-
I do think we have somebody online for item 14.
do we have is somebody online for that?
I guess,
Last name's Davy.
Yes,
All right.
yes,
that
I'm
all?
here for number 14. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's move
Let's move to that.
That, is that fine with everybody? So he doesn't have to wait for this? So we'll move up item number 14 for discussion and action on preliminary site plan approval for church building at 3057 South, 2700 West, parcel number 150930027, applicant Mike Davy. And I don't have it in front of me. Is this Damian or okay. Hit it. Sorry, I made you jump. That
No
confuses-
worries. I was
just
half
didn't-
paying attention,
I just
so I'm
didn't
half
want the
prepared.
gentleman to have to wait for us to discuss anything else.
I'm sorry, what number did we move to?
14.
The church.
Okay, yes, I am prepared for that now. Okay, so this is a request for preliminary site plan approval for a building of religious worship. And the location or the subject location is 3057 South on 2700 West. And that property is zoned A1 agricultural, and it's about 5 acres in size. So the applicant has been working with staff all the way back to a pre-application meeting, and they have gone through one round of reviews and made several amendments to come into compliance with the zoning ordinance and engineering standards as much as possible in this preliminary review. And we feel that the application is ready for Planning Commission review at this time. So a few aspects of the staff review. So we have the proposed building. There's one primary of 20,000, I think 600 square feet for the primary building. And there's 2 accessory buildings, and they do meet the A1 zone standards for site development. The proposed parking does exceed the minimum standards, and the building materials and architectural features, they do exceed our minimal standards for the building exterior. Also, in the report that I provided, I mentioned that the landscaping was not quite adequate. Since then, the applicant has updated the landscaping plan and provided me that updated plan, and it does comply with the zoning ordinance. There is a few corrections that do remain on the preliminary site plan. Specifically, there is an exterior lighting plan that we have not reviewed yet. And that exterior lighting plan we need to see does comply with the zoning ordinance and doesn't create any excessive light trespass. And also there's some engineering corrections on the improvement plans. And because of those 2 deficiencies, staff recommends the 2 conditions of approval that are enumerated in the staff report. And with those 2 conditions of approval enumerated in the staff report, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan with those conditions.
I just want to add one note about the engineering corrections. At this stage, they've provided their full construction set, which normally we don't require at this stage.
Yeah.
So the engineering comments are mostly in regards to that. So those would have to be approved before final site plan, which is why we felt comfortable bringing it from the Planning Commission at this stage, even though there's a few things on their construction set that still need to be addressed.
Yeah, no, it's a lot for right now, so that's good. I do have one question on the west side, where I think that's a canal. Is there a bridge? Is that what that is, to go over the canal at 31st Street?
So the site plan that I attached on the report is not actually oriented. So the top is the north, but the north side is the left side of this map.
No, I'm not looking at yours. I'm looking at one of the construction drawings.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe-
One of the
maybe-
attachments.
maybe Mr. Davy can answer that or Steve.
I can probably provide one of the issues is currently there's a road that stubs into the property, kind of dead ends.
Right.
And the church did not want to continue that roadway. And after
Okay.
some meeting with staff, we didn't find a need to continue that through. However, we advocated that there should be a pedestrian access on that side.
Okay.
And so that's why you see the sidewalk with the crosswalk is so we could maintain that. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to.
Well, it's in blue, so is that a canal?
There is an existing canal. This is Mike Davy, the applicant.
Uh-huh.
There is an existing canal that we're going to be burying. So we'll be piping that existing canal along the property.
Okay. So there'll be like a walking path from 3100?
Yes, that's right. There'll be a break in the fence and a sidewalk, and a crosswalk going across our parking lot. So yeah, pedestrian access into the building.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was my big question. Anybody have any other questions or thoughts? Actually looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
They could all be like this.
Well, if there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion. No, that's not a motion.
It's a coffin. Lost us.
And you said the two recommended conditions attached are the ones that you were recommending, correct, Damian?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommended conditions, motion to approve the proposed preliminary site plan for the Stake Center at 3057 South, 2700 West, finding that the design of the site and proposed building is compliant with the applicable regulations of the ordinance when the following conditions of approval are applied. 1, all staff comments and corrections listed on the attached corrections report are satisfactorily addressed prior to the final site plan approval. And 2, an exterior lighting plan that is compliant with code 157.775 through 157.785 is provided prior to final site plan approval.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you moving me up on the agenda.
Oh, sure. I should have done it sooner. I apologize, but
No
thank you.
problem. Thanks
Alrighty.
very much. Have a good night.
You too. All right, let's go back to
11?
presentation on public hearing change to Title 15 land usage patio home zone, residential patio homes, including 157.411 through 157.419. And I'll bet you this is Damian again.
Actually, this is me.
Oh. I never did.
I mean, if Damien wants to, he can, I'd let him. So the proposed changes that are in front of you tonight reflect the changes that the Planning Commission and we've done. To kind of summarize, the patio home zone, sorry, let me restart. Within West Haven, we have a patio home zone that allows for the construction and building of smaller lot subdivisions. In the course of that development, it was, I think, despite some different understandings amongst the Planning Commission and City Council, the city allowed for 2-story structures as long as they were under the height of 25 feet, even though that was not the intent of the initial code. As such, the Planning Commission and the mayor asked staff to review our patio home zone in order to make that correction to limit it to a single story. And as we did that, we also discovered a few other things we wanted to change and clarify. So the following are the main changes that the city is looking at. So the first one is we ended up changing some of the detached accessory building requirements. Essentially, detached accessory building and garages, we removed item B from section 157.414. Essentially, that kind of stated that accessory buildings larger than 200 square feet shall be as follows, and it lists some conditions, and we just limited accessory buildings to 200 square feet in the patio home zone. The next one is detached accessory building and garages. Once again, those are just limited to 200. We added item number 4 for our maximum size is 200 square feet, except for detached accessory dwelling units. And then we provided under 5, we provide in that same section, we stated that their detached accessory dwelling units would be allowed within the patio home zone as long as they complied with our code. And that's in order to comply with state code, which requires that single family, that if you have lots or single family homes, that we would have to allow for detached accessory buildings. We removed section 157.415, which is a 0 lot line. This is essentially allowed for attached patio homes. If you remember, the discussion around that was we weren't quite ready to really jump in and regulate those in a way that we felt like we wanted. And so in order to avoid having to deal with that in the future, at this point, we removed that section. And if you remember, one of the recommendations from the commission is potentially looking at providing a separate ordinance for attached patio homes. So the next section, which is 157.4, it was 1.6, but it will now be 1.5 with the elimination of the previous section. Under A, this is the catalyst for the changes that we're considering to limit buildings and dwellings and DADUs to a single story. This currently reads that main buildings or dwellings and DADUs shall be limited to 1 story in height and shall not exceed a height of 25 feet. Basement and below grade habitable space are strictly prohibited. At the last couple of meetings, we really discussed whether or not we'd allow for an attic room. And in the end, the planning commission felt like it was best to remove that as an option. So the last set of changes were in the landscaping section, 157.41, now 6, used to be 7. Really what we just did is currently under state code, we can't require bonding for landscaping that's not going to be publicly maintained. And so we really removed those sections that would have those requirements. Those were things we weren't enforcing. And so just for clarification, we decided to remove it and added that just all landscaping installed would be in compliance with West Haven landscape standards within this title. And then the rest of the sections after, the only changes were we just renumbered them because of the elimination of one section. And those are it.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Anybody have any questions, comments? It's great. I'm happy to have the single story. I'm sure Melinda is too.
I am. Thank you, Stephen. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, well, we don't have it quite yet because we need to go into public hearing.
Public hearing.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion to enter public hearing to solicit public input on a change to Title 15 land use patio home zone, residential patio homes, including 157.411 through 157.419.
You're entertaining a motion?
Yeah. that
Okay,
was-
I'll make a motion to enter public hearing.
All right, I'll second it. Let's get this over with. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in public hearing. Is there anybody online who may want to talk about this? And I know the gentleman back there is bored, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing.
I'll second.
Oh, we'll all second. Pick one.
Let's go.
I think Linda was slightly
I think she was.
faster. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Discussion and action. Do we want to discuss it or would somebody
we
like to make a?
Discussed it.
Yeah, I think we'd be-
Anybody want to make a motion about it?
I'll make a motion. I will make a motion to recommend approval of the proposed changes to the patio home zone contained within West Haven City Code 157.411 through 157.419, patio home zone as provided.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are done with that. And we skipped 14, so we are on to item number 15, discussion and workshop.
We get a big screen in front of us.
Yes. Do we have a game tonight? Is there?
I can see there, I think. Yeah,
Who's playing?
I'll be fine. I'll make it work.
So. That Spurs still in? Did they lose?
He was last night for the Ducks. Oh, yeah, you should just be able to scoot through.
Perfect. Great. Stephen. Thank you, commissioners. Excited to be back. So I'm Rob Sant. Just again, I'm the city's economic development consultant. I have a contract with the city to provide various tasks regarding economic development. But the first big one that I was tasked with was helping community development create this economic development strategic plan for West Haven. We did a joint workshop with the city council, now probably close to 2 months ago. That skipped ahead like 8 slides. And we took a lot of your comments and feedback that we received and put those into the plan. And so now we're ready to come back for another workshop. And I don't know, Stephen, if you want to maybe go through the remaining steps, I think after this one.
Yeah, so what our plans are today, we'd like to kind of walk through. I provided the plan to you a couple weeks ago for your review. Rob will walk through some of the highlights, and then we'd like to take any comments or suggestions that you might have, depending on the nature and scale of those comments. Our next step would be to schedule a public hearing. Essentially, this plan would be treated as if it is an adoption of a section of the general plan. So we would schedule a public hearing, we'd have send out the proper notices, and then we would schedule a public hearing with the Planning Commission where you would review and make a recommendation to the City Council, and then it would go to the City Council at the next available meeting after receiving a recommendation from this body.
Perfect, thank you. So I think kind of the first thing that we want to spend a little time on is why do we create an economic development strategic plan? And then specifically, why would it be important for a planning commission to adopt that strategic plan? So really what it's about is it's setting a vision, aligning stakeholders, and then something that's really important is number 3 is you use a lot of data to help guide those decisions. So we've spent a lot of time looking at demographics, not only current demographics for West Haven, but also what are we going to look like in 2060. We also look at some of your from like a location quotient analysis, which is when we kind of look at what are the good industries that you have in Weber County and West Haven. We look at labor force data. We look at a lot of data, both quantitative and qualitative, to help us guide some of the decisions that we're going to make. We also analyze the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats to help inform that strategy. And then something else that's important is specifically with a city like West Haven, resources can be limited. So it's also a helpful way to prioritize what resources that you do have for economic development. It supports business growth. That's a key component for economic development. And then also you're looking to improve the fiscal sustainability of a city. So can we grow different sectors? How do we increase taxes? How do we increase quality of life? Strengthen funding and partnerships. And then the other thing that's important is it creates accountability. So this study, we've created kind of a toolbox. That's the main thing that you're looking for with these strategic plans is what are some strategies, what are some goals, what are some tools that staff and that others could focus on to help increase the economy, the quality of life. And so kind of the bottom line is the strategic plan is a data-driven roadmap for growing the economy, improving quality of life, and guiding smart public investment. So, and I think I kind of want, you guys have the whole plan. It's 65 pages, I believe. And so I don't know if you have any questions with that, but I wanted to pull out and spend the rest of the discussion on the key development areas we've identified. I know we already kind of reviewed them in that joint workshop. I think that'll be really important for you as a planning commission because some of our strategies we've identified are future land use decisions where we hope that this strategic plan will help kind of guide some of those decisions that will ultimately go in the general plan as well of, hey, what do we do with some of this available land that we have and how do we look at that through an economic development lens? So just as a reminder, we identified 6 areas: the 21st Interchange, 1900 West, 2550 South, Midland Hinckley, Midland 4000 South, and the Western Weber Corridor. And the data and rationale that we used for that are what are the current and future land uses in these areas. Average daily traffic counts was another one. With economic development and with commercial, visibility is important. So that was a key data point. Visibility, as I mentioned, existing transportation infrastructure and future transportation infrastructure, and then also availability of land. So the first one, the 21st Interchange, and something that we added to the plan since we last spoke is what does the current acreage look at? So we have about 176 vacant acres, 249 underutilized acres. And underutilized for that one, we kind of looked at each parcel by parcel and what's the footprint of the parcel, what type of buildings on that parcel. You know, do we have a 4-acre piece of land that has a 5,000 square foot dilapidated building? You know, that would be qualified probably as underutilized. And then developable acres. So on the 21st Interchange, that would be some of your existing hotels and things like that. So those ones are already developed and not really prone for an opportunity for redevelopment. A reminder of the strengths. So this one you have I-15 frontage, which is really important with some of the users. Then you also have a strong industrial sector and a commercial sector as well. And then there's a lot of development potential given that I-15 frontage. Some of the impediments, we've talked about this last time, but you do have that constrained land. So the part of the 21st Interchange that's shaded, that one, there's a lot of existing environmental issues and other topography issues that could make redevelopment difficult. And so we wanted to just highlight that, you know, that's a large chunk of this area and it is a great opportunity for redevelopment, but it will take some additional tools and resources to redevelop that. And then aging infrastructure. So a lot of the infrastructure in this area is aging. So as it does redevelop and maybe creates additional density, will the infrastructure support that? Again, another additional investment that you would need. Parcel configuration. So a lot of different landowners in this area. And that's the case for quite a few of these areas. And so with that one, just takes a lot more of that initial work to assemble land and things like that. And then the last one, again, because of that constrained area, there could be that perception that, hey, redevelopment is going to be really hard in this area. So those are some of your impediments. And then the potential uses that we've identified for this one. And again, we use this we look at what's the existing uses in the area, and then also some of those visibility, traffic, things like that. So industrial and flex space, there's already a really strong industrial flex space use in this area. So continue to really go with that one. That's also one of your strongest industries in Weber County is that industrial manufacturing. Office and corporate services. So this would be a good location. The office market's struggling right now, but if it were to come back, those big office users, they really like that visibility from a freeway. So this would be a good area to preserve for an office user. Hotel and lodging. So there's some existing hotels here, and the market shows that hotels are coming back and growing. So There could also be another use for a hotel there. Regional commercial, so a Target, something like that would also, they also love that the visibility of I-15. I know Far West is just getting a Target, but that they are looking at expanding. And then higher density housing. So again, we're not saying high density housing, but just higher than your single family lots would be another use in that area. Any questions on that one?
One thing I do want to maybe kind of talk about as we're going through this map. So as many of you know, we're updating our general plan, which will be producing a future land use map as part of that. So the idea is that these maps and these regions proposed uses will help, well, maybe not, well, they're not going to be like a replacement to what is in the general plan map, but are going to help provide information as we create the general plan map to know, like, these are the viable uses. So as we're looking at how we develop these peak properties, we will address them in a lot more detail within the general plan map itself. But this is, as Rob mentioned, these are kind of what is economically viable, what we believe is a good fit in this area from an economic development perspective.
Could you speak to some of the, now I lost the word, some of the problems with that hashed area in terms of the land itself? Because I remember several years ago, we had apartments that the then planning commission had recommended and they never built. So
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. Probably the biggest area, or probably one of the biggest concerns, is lack of access back in this area. So I'm going to.
Is that where like the McDonald's and Flying J is?
yes,
Yeah, it's
on and that east side of junkyard or
So
whatever.
that's right. And there's that bar restaurant thing right on the corner.
Sorry, Amy. Sorry, Melinda. I'll speak loud. Right now, this is where that McDonald's is.
Yeah.
And the Flying J's back here. The big issue is this road just dies right here. Oops, I touched it. Didn't like it.
Touch it.
And so there's really only, for all of this area, there's really only one in and out. There's also some brownfield
There's an in
development,
and out.
back in here. The old dump is right here, for
Oh,
instance.
yeah.
There's also some sewer capacity issues. And so honestly, our current zoning has a lot of this as commercial and mixed use with up to 30 units an acre. And so we get a lot of calls on it just based off that zoning. But we turned pretty much everybody away because, well, we just let them know the hurdles they have to overcome. But access is one of the biggest ones. And we've actually had some conversations with the county economic development director about potentially doing a joint study between us. Because Marriott Slaterville, they have the same issue right here. And so we've thought about trying to do some sort of study with them to figure out the best way to overcome some of these challenges.
Well, those apartments I'm referring to were along that service road where that university
So
used to
they're
be.
right.
Was that unbuildable?
They're right here.
That
Guy
where
quit touching it.
Steven Senator was or whatever.
Don't touch.
We just went down
Don't
to.
touch.
Sorry, it disappeared. Now we're on, it's still good, but we went to 1900, but it's the same map, so.
You're the kind of guy that puts fingerprints on windows, aren't you?
This TV's a touch screen. Yeah, so there's, it's under a development agreement. They've proposed an amendment to that development agreement, and which we'll bring to the planning commission in the near future. But yeah, they have several similar problems
Okay.
with access and how to service the site.
So where is the trail that runs through that? Is that right, the border?
Right on.
So the border is the trail.
Yeah,
Okay.
other than it splits right here and it goes under 21st Street, and then part of it goes into Ogden.
Okay.
So it kind of divides.
And so to that point, I don't know if we'll get into the specific strategies, but that's two strategies we identified, is working with the county and other cities to try to pursue infrastructure grants or studies. And then the other one that we've identified, which this one, there's a cost to it, but work with a lobbyist. There's a lot of money that's available. So another city that I help with, and this was affordable housing infrastructure, right? So, but they just got $7 million of free grant money from the state to put towards infrastructure. And so there's a lot of grants that exist, and there's a, I want to say for this city, it cost them $150,000 to hire a lobbyist, but then they got 7 million. So there is that ROI, but that's, some specific strategies that we've suggested to help attack that issue of that constrained land. So the next one is 1900 West. I think I mentioned this last time. When we first identified these areas, we actually had this one as just one big area. But then we decided some of the uses and different things, it might make sense to make it two different areas. And the main one is just you lose the visibility of I-15, and you also lose still good traffic counts with 1900, but not like you get with I-15. I apologize. So a lot of the same types of uses, but maybe not as great of a scale. So still great for office, still great for commercial, but you're not looking at more of a regional use. You're scaled down to more of a neighborhood use. So a gas station, a medical office, a dentist office, things like that would be what would be great for 1900. And then also some industrial and flex industrial. 1900 again has a lot of that already, and so capitalize on that. And then same thing, you have 129 vacant acres, 187 underutilized acres, and then 63 developed acres.
I might have ruined it. When I touched it.
You're great. I don't know where 2550 went. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so 2550. So for this one of the benefits of this one is it's kind of the exact opposite of what you have at 1900 and 21st Interchange. You have a lot of vacant parcels that are owned by one user. And so with that one, it's really just partnering with that one user to work on a development. And so that's a strength of this one. And then we have demonstrated retail interest. So this is the one that some grocers have identified as, hey, this would be a great area to have that grocery store. And then some of the impediments, and this kind of looks weird because we say large vacant parcels is a strength, but then we say limited land availability is a impediment. And that reason is a lot of the land is owned by, is it the sewer district? Or the water?
South Jordan Water.
South Jordan Water District. And while they have agreed that they would be willing to potentially redevelop some of their land, not a lot of it. And so even though there is a lot of vacant land, it's not necessarily developable. And then also, since this is a residential area and doesn't have that same transportation infrastructure that 1900 and I-15 have, there is that component of, hey, what will the traffic impacts be as we increase density and increase commercial uses? But some of the potential uses that we've identified, a grocery store, again, that neighborhood commercial, residential, and, with residential, maybe it's that higher residential of your single small lot family homes. And then also one that I think they'll talk about a little more at the general plan is, and something that we identified in the study, is there's a lack of a town center, right? And where people can gather and associate and be. And so we've also said, hey, this could be a good use for that town center. And that would be one where, we've kind of included two pictures down here where you have kind of that mixed use components of residential, commercial, but then you also have some public uses. So whether that be a park or a public amenity that this city can go to, a center or something like that. All right, Midland Hinckley. So this one, so 94 vacant acres, 24 underutilized acres, and 15 developed acres. The next three are a lot smaller than the other ones. But for this one, some of the strengths are the existing uses. So you do already have some industrial flex space as you get more further up by 3,300. Then you also have, you do have some higher density housing there. There's also high traffic exposure, both coming off of Hinckley Drive and Midland. And then there is some vacant and underutilized land. Impediments, again, this is one that pops up a lot. So there is that fragmented land ownership. So I think almost every parcel is owned by a different landowner. And then, so there's that need for land assembly. The potential uses would be flex industrial. And again, we're not saying flex industrial, right, by the Midland Drive, but where it's already existing would be what we would suggest. And then that same neighborhood commercial, neighborhood office. And then since higher density housing already exists, this would be a good area for higher density housing. That's one of the data points that we looked at. I know that the city's had a lot of that higher density housing, but it's still a 70% single family compared to 30%. And so with that, there's still room for some higher density housing, but again, we want to be, look at what does it make sense to go? Like, we don't want to maybe have it be across the city, but are there specific areas that could benefit from that higher density housing? So Midland 4,000 South. So this is one where I would say the biggest strength is there's already a planned regional retail development. So the Walmart's coming. I know that the developer that owns land around the Walmart has entered into quite a few LOIs with some potential other commercial users. So, and we've mentioned the retail leakage study, which we'll talk about a little bit later. A lot of that's going to be captured by this development, but that's one of the main reasons why we included it is there's already that planned development happening. This also has a lot of high traffic volumes. And then this is where a lot of your existing commercial is, that's not in that 21st interchange 1900 West. There isn't a lot of vacant land that's not planned for development. So that would be one constraint. And then there's also some utility constraints with, you have some substations there, you have the power line grid running through there. And then your potential uses would be regional commercial and neighborhood office. And then the last one that we identified was this Western Weber corridor. This is the smallest one. So 21 vacant acres, 37 underutilized acres, and 7 developed acres. Strengths, that future regional connectivity that will come, which will also improve mobility and access. But your impediments, there's not a lot of land. What's interesting about that, you'll see where the city boundaries are. There's a lot of vacant land that's not part of West Haven, right? And so annexation or different things, depending on where that corridor goes, there could be opportunities to increase that footprint. But right now, what's in the city, this is the areas that we identified that could be developed.
So is the red what is available to develop?
Correct. Yep.
So the fire station that's right there, that's
I'm not 100%. I believe
right on 4,700 and 4,000. So it's like the fire station's in one of those red areas. I was just wondering, is that
that
away?
I'm not sure if, yeah, I'm sure
There's that lot right next to it, though. That's
It's
A lot, then
teeny.
there's two, yeah, there's two.
And then I know the open land by the Quest School is across the street there, but the fire station take up some of that.
It's hard to tell by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that that fire station is going anywhere. I think if anything, we have another fire station coming in on the east side.
We drive, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think this is maybe the identification of these parcels was an abundance of undeveloped area, like building to greenfield ratio. I don't know if that played into this analysis.
and I think we also looked at kind of where the interchange is going to potentially be. And then, you don't want to go too far away from the interchange. So
And that's the North Davis Highway thing that's coming through
yeah, it's
there.
going to be, yeah. So it's going to connect and then go up. Yeah, so there might be a potential, another one that's up in unincorporated Weber County where you would want to maybe have that be part of your annexation plan. And then neighborhood commercial, neighborhood office, and flex space. And again, this is similar to the Midland Hinckley, where as you go up to the northern part of that area, there is some existing flex space already in there. So that's where we would put that. But then along 4,000 South, as you have that, the exit to the new corridor, you would want to have your commercial and your office.
So I'm sorry, I got hot outside when I went off to turn off the alarm. The fire station, as of right now, the fire district has not told us they're going to demolish it. I know in some discussions there's been some talk about when they have plans to build a new one here in the city, and when they do that, they may retire that station, but they've also indicated they may keep it. So it's a little, we don't know.
All right, so now let's get into some of the goals. What I tried to do here is list the goal and then list some of the data points and rationale that went into deciding on the goals, and then some of the key strategies for each of those goals. Again, I mentioned this last time. I want to say overall there's about 75 primary and secondary strategies. And the intent of the plan is not that Stephen and the city staff have to do all 74 for this to be successful, right? You can pick and choose, hey, what's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck? What are some things right now, given our bandwidth, given our revenue that we have, that we should focus on? And so we just wanted to say, hey, this is the whole toolbox that you have available to help drive that economic development, but then you kind of pick and choose what you think would be a good focus point. So the first one is to strengthen and diversify the local economy. So something that is a big highlight here is, from 2015 to 2025, West Haven's had an average 9% annual population growth. You have high median income compared to the rest of the county. And then, you have the average commercial permits that you've had over the last 10 years that we had available is 9. So a lot of opportunity there for increased commercial, especially given the high median incomes. And so some of the key strategies: expand commercial and retail opportunities, recruit anchors and fill those leakage categories, attract and retain employers, designate transportation served employment priority areas, launch a business retention and expansion program, and support local entrepreneurs through partnerships. Again, limited staff, limited resources. There's a lot of these entities that already exist. So the Small Business Development Center is a great entity, and they're funded by both the state and the federal government, and their whole role is to just serve small businesses. And so when a small business says, hey, we need some help with this, it's a great way that you can help them, but it doesn't take a lot of bandwidth from city staff. You just have that relationship with the SBDC and you refer them to them. And then redevelop underutilized industrial and commercial sites in the 21st Interchange and 1900 West areas. And then some of the rationale that we had is that rapid residential growth is creating a bigger demand for retail, dining, services, and local jobs. Those key development areas, the existing industrial uses, and that regional visibility on that 21st Interchange. You have 176 acres of vacant land and 249 acres of underutilized land. That's not something that a lot of cities that have I-15 access can say. So there is a lot of opportunity there. Something else that could benefit West Haven: 99% of all businesses in Utah are considered small business. So small businesses really are the backbone of a lot of cities' economies. So to have a successful economic development program, you don't need to go out and recruit an Adobe or recruit a Google. It's just helping those local businesses, those local entrepreneurs grow, right? So maybe it's a company that has 3 employees and then you help them have 6. Things like that are beneficial. And then the last one that's good about creating and kind of diversifying the local economy: 8,465 residents leave every day to go work outside of West Haven. So is there a way that we can create some tools that keep some of those people working close to home? And, given the fact that West Haven is a bedroom community. We're not saying, hey, you should make sure that everybody that's leaving West Haven stays in West Haven, but are there little opportunities that some more people can live and work closer to home? I know sometimes I commute an hour a day, and I would love if I could commute, 5 or 10 minutes a day. So the next one is improve fiscal sustainability and diversify municipal revenues. So this is, something that a lot of people have talked about, but 96% of West Haven's general fund revenues come from sales tax, right? Which can be a scary thing. And then the other thing that we talk about in the plan is a lot of times, almost every scenario, your most expensive cost of service for a city is residential. So, and this is for a city that would charge a property tax. But what this is saying is for every dollar of revenue that cities get, it costs them $1.16 to provide services for a residential use. When you look at commercial uses, industrial uses, that number goes down to 30 cents. And so for West Haven, that number is going to be a lot higher because you don't have really any revenue that you receive off of a residential direct revenue, right? They still spend sales tax, but you don't have that property tax revenue to offset that cost, but you still have to provide all those services. And then the last big data point that we used for this one that we talked about is right now the city's capturing 67% of the sales tax. So 33% of it is they're leaving and that's going to other cities. So what can we do to increase that? And so what we did for those ones, we talked about prioritize commercial mixed use zoning in commercial centers, corridors, and high visibility locations. So let's keep some areas that could be high sales tax generators generating sales tax. And again, that same thing. Protect sales tax generating areas by limiting uses that do not support sales tax productivity. So that would be important. Not saying that mixed use shouldn't happen on Midland and 4000 South, but let's keep as much of that sales tax generating since that's where a lot of the sales tax is going to come from. Use fiscal modeling and fiscal impact studies for major land use decisions and annexations. So that's something that could help you guys make decisions as someone, is looking to make decisions involving land use. What's the fiscal impact going to be for us? That's a good data point that you could use to justify your decisions as a planning commission and then ultimately as a city council as well. And then the last one, we talked about this with the 21st interchange, pursue grants, intergovernmental funding, CRA tools, and also conduct a property tax feasibility analysis. So these are ways that you can grow your general fund revenues. And then again, the data and rationale we used, West Haven does not currently collect property tax, so sales tax carries more of a fiscal burden. And then we looked at the other cities around West Haven, and on average, their general funds, about 20% of their general funds comes from property tax. And then again, back to that cost of service, residential is the most expensive land use that a city has to service. And so having those other commercial industrial uses brings that cost of service down. So just another reason to preserve where you can for commercial and industrial. And then that last one that goes to that 67% that puts it into a fiscal impact, that equates to about a $238 million loss of sales, which is 1.2 million in revenue for the city. And this is a lot of data. So let me know if you have questions or. So goal 3 is manage growth proactively. So again, this is important for you as a planning commission. What we're projecting, and we use some of the other plans that the cities use between 2020 and 2060, 173% population growth projection could happen. People love living in West Haven. And again, I think I put that, maybe it's on a different one, but they just released the highest growth cities. And from a percentage increase, West Haven was the 4th in Utah still, right? And so people are coming to West Haven. 70% is single family housing. And then of your current housing stock, you only have a 3% vacancy rate. So that's not really high. You don't have a lot of available homes. And some of the key strategies, update the annexation plan to reserve key corridors for commercial and employment uses. Again, back to that fiscal impact analysis before you make any approval for annexations. Create an infrastructure readiness map. So, and that goes to the 21st interchange and other ones, but hey, are we ready do we have the utilities, the roads, and the capacity for this higher density? Encourage missing middle and mixed use housing in strategic areas connected to commercial centers. So again, not necessarily citywide, but identify some of these key areas where that missing middle could make sense. And then coordinate transportation infrastructure, growth boundaries, and transit with regional partners. Growth pressure is continuing. The growth isn't going to go away, but unmanaged growth risks sprawl, so an infrastructure strain and community resistance. So be smart with your growth. A more diverse housing mix, again, near centers can support walkability, retail demand, and efficient infrastructure use. And then coordinating with regional partners can reduce that duplicated infrastructure and also preserve local control. That's something we've seen a lot, like with ADUs, for instance, right? The state's now said, all right, every city has to have ADUs. And so partnering with some of our neighboring cities can make sure that we're all taking the necessary steps where we get to maintain local control over land use. Goal 4. So modernize planning and development processes. Something that's great about this one is we identified a lot of strategies, and Stephen and his team have been so great. They've implemented a lot of them already. So they're already off to a great start with this plan. But again, we kind of just want to highlight, your commercial permit peaked twice, and it was 23. Average of commercial permits is 9 a year. Your residential is 212 a year. And looking at a lot of your neighboring communities, you by far have the most residential permits than a lot of your neighboring communities. So audit and revise land use and development code to reduce redundancies and clarify expectations. Create step-by-step development guides and conduct developer roundtables and surveys. A lot of these came from one of our roundtables was with the development community, and they suggested a lot of these things as a way to kind of just improve efficiencies. Something that we've noticed, and again, impact fees, usually it's because of the infrastructure needs that you have, but the impact fees in West Haven are pretty high. And that's something that we've noticed with working with the developers with those LOIs is from a retail standpoint, as they get a high impact fee, for them, hey, if I'm gonna have to pay $400,000 in impact fees in West Haven and I have to do $150,000 in Roy, well, that's an immediate cost savings for me. So we're not suggesting that you revise your impact fees, but just occasionally do an analysis to look at what the regional peers are doing in impact fees and other fees and how you can improve to be more with them. And then also do an annual report. What are you using your impact fees on? What are the revenues and what are the expenditures? Prioritize infrastructure investment in key development areas and create a long-term investment plan. And then strengthen staff capacity and interdepartmental development coordination. And yeah, a lot of this, like I mentioned, was derived from the feedback we got in the SWOT analysis. Again, commercial growth is coming in West Haven, but it could be volatile, right? Like, as I mentioned before, a lot of retailers, what they care about is rooftops. And so they could look at West Haven, they could look at Clinton, they could look at Roy, and that kind of all counts for them as the same rooftop. So often they look at, hey, what's the quickest timeline that I could be open? And then what's the least amount of fees I'd have to pay?
A lot higher than community around us.
Yes, it would. Well, we have done some initial analysis to look, and it kind of depends on the use, but particularly for higher traffic uses like drive-throughs, there can be a significant difference between West Haven and our neighbors. I mean, our impact fees were based on the actual needs of the city. So that is something we have had some internal discussions on how we want to review it, because we've had a few commercial projects that have already reached out to us to try to see if there's a way they could negotiate some of their impact fees in order to move forward. And
so that's something that this city could do. They could just, have a policy in place of, hey, are we willing to do an impact fee reimbursement, or something like that. That's a Pandora's box, right? Because if you do it for one, you don't want to all of a sudden say everyone, right? No one wants to pay an additional fee. But, there could be some strategies involved with there. And yeah, that's the other hard thing is there's a lot of that undeveloped land. So there is a lot of future infrastructure need. So impact fees are just tied directly to that. So there's not a lot that can be done with it, but what can be done.
Yeah, I will say one thing about building permits. One thing we've noticed in the last few years is that our residential permits have continued to fall. And that's actually something that we've seen throughout the state. We're not isolated from that. But our commercial permits have remained steady and have even grown some in the last few years. So we're still seeing high demand for a lot of our commercial areas, even though our residential demand has fallen.
So the last goal that we've identified in the plan is to enhance community identity and quality of life. So again, this was one that came out in those interviews that we conducted, is people love living in West Haven, but there's kind of a lack of that community identity. So what is West Haven? So I mentioned this before, again, by percentage, this last year, you're the 4th fastest growing community in Utah. Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs surpassed, but I mean, there's more residents there, right? I want to say Eagle Mountain now has like 76,000 or something crazy. You have 7,218 total households. And then again, what came out and what I mentioned in the 2550 South, there is that missing central Main Street commercial gathering center. So some things that we've identified would be develop a Welcome to West Haven brand package, and integrate that into signage and gateways and communications. That's something you could give new residents as they file for utilities or new businesses that open. Prioritize a walkable town center with gathering spaces for civic events and community interaction. Expand trails and active transportation connections to retail nodes, schools, and public spaces. Establish gateway corridor design guidelines and targeted beautification areas, and then plan for community programming space, wayfinding events, art. Again, a lot of that's just that increase that quality of life. And the data and rationale we used for that, this came from the SWOT, is residents value open space, the family-friendly character, and the community roots of West Haven, but it lacks that distinct brand or sense of place. You have a young, growing household base, which increases that demand for those public services of parks and trails and events. And then the last one is those quality of life investments. While a lot of times you don't see a direct fiscal impact of those, it does attract employers, it attracts and retains residents. That's something that Sandy's another city that I work with. And back when the office market was hopping, I remember we had an office user come in and they were looking at expanding. And we walked them out, and we pointed to the mountain and we said, "Do you see that little light? That's a world-class ski resort." And that was one of the things that he's like, "Wow, I want to come here. Like, that's how close I am to skiing." So again, it's not something that you're maybe going to say, "Hey, this is going to increase our sales tax numbers," but it is a great recruiting tool is kind of having those quality of life investments. Not saying that Sandy built that ski resort, but yeah. And that's what I have. So any other questions? Or any questions that you had when reviewing the document?
So the next step, if there's no additional feedback, or if the feedback tonight is minimal, what we'd like to do is schedule a public hearing probably for our next meeting. And then the planning commission we'd hold the public hearing and you'd make a recommendation to the council or continue it if there's other items you'd like to discuss more.
Interesting. Anybody else? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
We're done. All
Yep,
done.
have a great night.
All right, let's see, I believe it's item 15.
I'd like the motion
Really?
to adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
I'll second the
All
motion.
right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Didn't think so. Remind you guys not to have communications with anybody.